A słowa na dziś to pochodzenie,
origins,
dorastać,
grow up,
skłonność,
proclivity,
zakochać się,
fall in love,
być zainspirowanym przez,
be inspired by,
ukończyć,
graduate,
narzeczona,
fiancé,
stopień magistra,
master's degree,
wyzwanie,
challenge,
kraj przyjmujący.
host country.
Erik, please tell me, what are your origins? Where do you come from?
Well, I'm from Seattle, Washington, but my bloodline is Norwegian, Swedish, Danish, and I think German is in there too a little bit. But I'm half Norwegian, so mostly Scandinavian.
Oh my God, that's quite complicated.
They're very complicated.
But then you were born exactly in?
Seattle, Washington.
In
yes.
Seattle, Washington, and you grew up over there.
I grew up in Seattle, yes.
You attended to what schools there?
From local schools, I went to Liberty High School, and then I went to the Art Institute of Seattle. That's what I went to.
Okay, so you went to Art Institute to study?
To study art.
To study art. And actually this art came up like quite good success in your life. Because
Recently, yes.
Yeah, recently, yes. And it started back there?
I've always been creative or an artist. As a young boy, I had a proclivity to drawing at a very early age, and this was my parents were really good about coaching me along about that and keeping me going. I just did a speech recently where we were talking about my inspirations in life, and it's kind of a mishmash of ideas, but I grew up with heavy doses of film, cinema, and really heavy doses of comic books. And in between those, I fell in love with drawing, and I drew superheroes and monsters and everything that you could imagine I drew. When I went to the Art Institute, it kind of refined that and honed that skill in, and I learned different skills in it. I learned how to compose and how to build shadow and contrast and all of these things, and work with color. These are things that I didn't learn self-taught, but I'd learned quite a bit before going there, yeah.
Do you remember like your best superhero from movies when you were younger?
Wow, when I was younger, my best superhero.
Did you just love drawing?
I love drawing. The inspirations were, it's kind of funny. I was really inspired by Marvel comic books. So a lot of X-Men and Thor and Spider-Man and all of these guys were kind of like my heroes at that point, especially characters like Wolverine, and had a darker element to it. With film, I was hugely inspired by horror films, and I had, as a young man, I was really drawn to this, I don't know, you want to call it maybe the darkness of it or whatever, but Alien is my absolute favorite movie of all time. So I can watch that movie. I've probably seen it over 1,000 times. I can still watch it, no problem.
You graduated art institution,
Yeah.
but probably you still had some mentors or some role models, some inspirators that you looked at, and then you tried to develop. Were there any people like that you were really inspired by?
As artists or as people?
As artists.
Artists, yeah, for sure. H.R. Giger was one of my early inspirations, and it's impossible to know of Giger without knowing Beksinski. So both of them kind of became inspirations to me. Beksinski a little bit later in life, but H.R. Giger for sure early on. They were doing kind of fantastic work, and it was just so heavy in the imagination that both intimidating and daunting and super inspiring as well, because it was so recognizable. So seeing somebody's work that I could easily see, this is H.R. Giger, that inspired me by itself. And I remember a teacher talking directly to me and saying that you can develop your art in many different ways. And he said that you need to find your style and keep chipping away at that style until it is nobody else's but yours. And to this day, I still think about that. And I think that even with photography, that people can see my photos and say, "Oh, that's Erik's.
That's
He did
Erik,
that."
exactly.
Yeah.
You have that specific
And
style.
so that voice still is in the back of my head telling me, you still need to chip away at that style and find it.
We're going to talk more about your photography in the next episode.
Super.
But now I would like to ask you, when was the time when you left Seattle? When was it?
Almost 5 years ago to the day. Almost.
And
5 years.
why did you decide to do that?
My fiancée is Polish. She's from Włodawa on the east here. We met in Seattle 10 years ago and have been together ever since. She, about 5, 6 years ago, she kind of felt the inkling to want to come back to Poland, and we did that by way of her getting a higher education here. She wanted to come back to go to school, and so she's finished her master's degree in bioinformatics, and now she's doing her PhD program. She's got about another year for that. So this is the reason why we ended up in Poznań.
Was it hard for you to adopt and adjust yourself to the new surroundings?
Yeah, absolutely. It was very difficult. But it was
what
also.
What was the toughest part?
Foraging for food every day was the toughest part.
What does it exactly mean?
Well,
some examples from the life.
Trying to find food. So here in Poland, we have these lovely meat and cheese counters that I love. But my first month here, Agnieszka went straight to school. So we were actually living in Swaziland. We were living here. And I had nobody to help me try to figure out how to get food. But I would go into these grocery stores and see this meat counter with all of these delicious cured meats and cheeses.
Yeah, but how to order?
Exactly. And the ladies all back there saying, "Proszę, proszę," and I'm thinking, no, I don't know how to do that. And I tried, pointing and saying, this, and
but
it was
still,
very
there is
frustrating.
other metrics we have.
Absolutely.
You have pounds, right?
Yeah, we have the deco system here. Yeah, it's nice. So
probably the conversion was also difficult for you.
It was hugely intimidating and difficult. I remember the first time I thought I was really smart, and I went and said, I don't even know if Agnieszka said, I don't think I've ever said this, but I ordered I don't remember, a kilogram. So I thought it's metrics, so I'll do something different. I ordered a kilo of some kind of meat.
Yeah.
It was so much meat. It was unbelievable.
Kilogram, 1 kilogram of meat.
And I didn't know how to say, no, not that much, or, so I just took it, paid for it. It's fine.
Okay, ordering was tough. What other challenges you have to face here in Poland?
So
it was the language.
Language is a barrier. Nothing is very intuitive. It's not at all like English. There's nothing intuitive about it. I can look at, for a year outside a window, I looked at the word for dentist, stomatologia, and I thought, what does that mean? I mean, what does that mean? And so it was, even when I was looking for things, it was very hard to find it,
Okay.
Language became that barrier.
And people?
People could be,
How do you find them? Because as I know Americans, since I had the time in my life when I lived in America, I know that Americans are quite open. They are extroverts. Here in Poland, I have a impression that we are rather introverts more.
Introverted, but also not conditional to a lot of change. And there's not a lot of non-Poles living here. I mean, there's more in Poznań and stuff, but you'd find that. But if you were walking, if you were walking in a small town in America and you wanted to buy something, somebody said, "Oh my God, I love your accent. Where are you from?" They might even go so far as say, "Oh, I was in Russia once." Something like this, absurd.
So opening the conversation is quite easy.
Right, but they would hear your accent, and that would be the lead-in. You're not from here. Wow, that's crazy. What, your accent sounds like this. Or they would confuse it with Russia, or they would say, I'm not Russian, I'm from Poland. Poland, oh my God, that's that place that's always cold. Whatever it is, it doesn't matter, but there would be a conversation built on that. Here, it's very different. People would know that I'm a foreigner, but there would be no question as to where I'm from. It's like there's a wall that goes down. I can't ask these questions because I don't know you. My
so
thought behind that.
So you felt kind of like isolated a little
very
bit.
Very isolated for a year, and also I'm a little bit different because I don't want to make waves with people. I didn't want to force English on people and walk into some place and say, "I need help. can you give me something? And I'm not that way. So I would try to learn as much Polish as I could and kind of work in that way. I had since we were living here and moving here, and this is my host country, I had an idea. I was saying in the beginning, if I couldn't say it in Polish, I didn't need it that much. And I kind of lived vicariously through that for a year. A little frustrating at times, but it's...
Your story has really amazing situations, and it's going to be continued in the next episode.
Excellent.
A słowa na dziś to pochodzenie,
Origins.
dorastać,
Grow up.
skłonność,
Proclivity.
zakochać się,
Fall in love.
być zainspirowanym przez,
Be inspired by.
ukończyć,
Graduate.
narzeczona,
Fiancé.
stopień magistra,
Master's degree.
wyzwanie,
Challenge.
kraj przyjmujący.
Host country.